Here we go. Well, everybody, welcome to day one of the Student Development Conference. My name is Maddie, and I'm the president of the Public Relations Student Society of America at Eastern. And on behalf of PRSSA, I want to thank you all, the attendees and the panelists, for joining us today, even though it's weird circumstances and joining Zoom webinars and everything. So tonight we have our athletics industry panel, and it is featuring speakers Ellen Trudell, who will be here shortly, from the Detroit Lions, Kurt Swoboda from the University of Michigan, Dion Dargan from the New York Giants, and Seth Stillman, who is from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they are going to have some really great things to talk to you guys about. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Dean, who's going to be our moderator. So Dean, go ahead and kick it off for us.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Maddie. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dean Albercat. I am the social media coordinator for Eastern Michigan's PRSSA chapter. A little bit about me. I'm in my senior year here at Eastern, majoring in public relations and minoring in marketing. So I want to give the panel a little bit of time to introduce themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Seth, if that's okay. Just give us a little bit of background information on you, who you are, alma mater, and what you are doing with your position at the moment.
Absolutely. Thanks for that introduction, and thanks for having me. Happy to be here. So I'm Seth from West Winfield, Michigan, suburb right outside of Detroit. And I graduated from Eastern Michigan in 2018 with a degree in sports management and a minor in communications. So I was thrilled to ask to participate today. Got a lot of love for my Eagles. So my introduction to the sports industry was with Zenith, which is a football helmet manufacturer worn at the youth level all the way up to the NFL. I did about I spent 2 years with them through school. I was on the marketing and sales team. At the time, it was kind of one team at the time. So I played a little bit of both roles there. And then out of college, I tried to break into the agency field and was managing 2 athletes on my own under an agent's umbrella. And one of them ended up at the Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. Didn't really work out. It was a partnership I built with the agent. So then from there, I decided to make a move and use my network at Quicken Loans, which Zenith falls under, to network my way over to the Cavaliers. And I've been here for almost 2 years now, coming up on the 2nd season. I was a special projects assistant for the first year, assisting our chief marketing officer and executive vice president, playing an administrative and project management role. And then the other half was alumni relations. I came in during our 50th season. So we spent a lot of time and money and effort really pushing our Legends program, keeping them engaged. And then once the 50th season died down, I got moved over to the communications department, where I now assist our director of communications, doing a lot of, the dirty and busy work behind the scenes, tracking, earned media and whatnot regarding following press releases, as well as assisting our director of alumni relations and keeping them involved with the organization.
Awesome. So yeah, you wore a lot of hats, definitely. Very cool. So we'll move on down. Dion, if you want to go ahead with a little bit of your background.
Sure. Thanks, Dean, and thanks for having me. Like you said, my name is Dion Dargan. I graduated from Eastern in 2013. It wasn't even an official internship, but I briefly assisted in the sports information department, which is actually how I, kind of got to where I am now. Following that brief stint, it was about 8 weeks. I actually got an internship with the Detroit Lions in their PR department. And from there, a quick story, during my internship, we were playing the New York Giants, and my boss at the time told me that I reminded him of the PR director for the Giants at the time. So he was like, you should introduce yourself. And so, I made it my mission to introduce myself, and we kept in contact, and following that season, he actually offered me an internship to come out to New York. And so, I came out, I did an internship. I actually moved back home. I'm originally from Detroit. So after my internship, I moved back home. 6 months later, there was some shuffling within the department, and they offered me a full-time role. So I was hired, as the communications coordinator. So my primary responsibilities are, I do our weekly release that we put out every week, responsible for our media guide, I coordinate player interviews with local and national media. I prep players, social media monitoring, and a host of other things as well. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for that. Kurt, if you want to go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Dean, thanks for having me. This is, I actually think this is my third or fourth straight year of joining this session here with you folks. First in this way. So
Yes.
Thanks for hanging with us, everyone, via Zoom. So I am the Associate Athletic Director at the University of Michigan. I live Eastern Ann Arbor, kind of right on the line of Ypsi. I've been here, this is my 6th year at U of M. So I oversee all the communications, public relations, social media, digital marketing, and obviously we're getting into a lot of things that happen in the future with name, image, and likeness. So we're pretty busy. I graduated way back 2000 from a small school in New Hampshire, Colby Sawyer College. I'm kind of a New Englander, born and raised. Also spent some time under the GW Bridge, Dion, in New York City. So used to make my way over to East Rutherford quite a bit. And I think, you know, like Dion and Seth, I did a ton of stuff early on that kind of set me up in the field. I was a baseball player in college, and I did a bunch of internships. You name it, I did it on campus. And I got my start working in the New England Collegiate Baseball League, which is an NCAA-sanctioned wood bat baseball league. I was a publicist at the beginning, and I did that really as a way to get kind of a foot in the door pursuing coaching. And I served as a coach in that league a couple summers after that, and then found my way into the commissioner's office, and I was the deputy commissioner of that league. And at the same time, I also worked for area universities and colleges. In that world, I worked at a couple small Division II schools, Franklin Pierce University and St. Anselm College. That led to an opportunity at Harvard University in Boston, where I was able to work and continue my education. And it's hard to believe, but I got my master's there. It did not maybe fit there academically, but I made my way through it. And that led to an opportunity at Stanford University, where I was for about 3 years before the Michigan job came open. And so I've worked at, Harvard's the largest athletic department in the country. They've got 42 sports now. 36, and just unbelievable student athletes up and down. And I've been able to kind of enjoy different organizational cultures and processes and then kind of learn along the way. So thrilled to be with you here today.
Excellent. Likewise. It's nice to meet all of you and hear all of your backgrounds. So before we start, about around the 4:45 mark, we're going to transition into some student questions from the attendees. So guys, if you have any questions to ask any of the panelists, feel free to type them into the chat or the Q&A box throughout the discussion. And then go ahead and let me know who you are targeting that question to. And then I will address as many as I can up until the 5 o'clock endpoint. All right, so let's get to it. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my first question, and we can kind of, aside from the individual questions, we can kind of go in order how we just did with the bios. So Seth, I'm gonna go ahead and start with you. So what made you really want to attain a role in the sports industry?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because growing up, just like I'm sure Dion and Kurt, sports was my life. I played everything growing up. Through high school, I didn't play in college, but I always played baseball, travel hockey, basketball, tennis, and it was just, what kept me moving. Just in general, like sports was my life. And it wasn't really until I toured Eastern that I realized, like, you can study sports management. Like, there is an industry, there's a business side to working in sports. Aside from the product on the floor, this is a business like any other business. There's a marketing department, there's a communications department, there's IT, there's data, there's analytics, and so on. So that was kind of like the eye opener that, said that this is an industry out there. So, that's what kind of gravitated me towards Eastern as a sports management program. And then from there, the opportunity to work for Zenith, that's like where, I first got my feet wet in the industry. So I would say that the turning point for me was just being educated that there is a business side to it. And it's not just, like everyone else, I thought I was going to be a point guard in the NBA until reality set in. And then you're like, all right, that's now not looking so bright. So let's work on the business side of it. So really, I would say personally, it took me to get educated on the industry to then say, maybe this is where I belong. Because to me, sports that's keeps me moving, gets me out of bed in the morning, that's my motor. And it's, great to work in a field that I'm so passionate about. So, once my eyes opened to all that, that was probably the turning point for me.
Right on. Absolutely. Yeah. Likewise, I also wanted to be a point guard in the NBA, but once I hit 5'10" and I stopped right there, like, all right, it's probably not going to happen. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so Dion, go ahead with your answer as well. What made you want to attain a role in the sports industry?
Yeah, I probably realized before both of you that, I wasn't making it to the NBA. So early on, I had dreams of becoming a sports anchor. So working for ESPN, Sports Center, that was my dream job. I was a comm major at Eastern. I had an internship with WJBK Fox 2 Detroit. And so like that was the career path that, that I thought I was heading on. And so I remember Woody Woodruff, he took me to Detroit Lions training camp practice one day during my internship. And so I saw a guy who was maneuvering around the media. He kind of like held the attention of everyone. He was, telling everyone where to go. Just seemed like he knew what he was doing. And I was like, man, who is that guy? Like, he has a cool job, it appears to be. And so it was a PR rep for the Lions. And so from there, I really got interested, as well as my love for sports, obviously. And then to, like Seth mentioned, seeing the different roles that go into sports and professional sports. And so for me, it was, I originally wanted to be a sports anchor, but then I saw, like the different roles within the organization, and I was really drawn to doing PR. So that's kind of how I, like how my love can be explained a little bit.
Awesome. Definitely. Kurt, same question.
Yeah, pretty similar answer. I grew up around sports. I would say that, sports didn't necessarily run in my family. So I went against the grain in that way, and probably didn't have, it'd be accurate to say, I didn't have a lot of role models in that way, or really the perspective or understanding about what was out there. But I loved sports, loved baseball, wanted to coach. And that was my mindset even going into college. I'm a little bit older than some of our other folks in the room here. And at that time, sport management was really just becoming a thing. And I was lucky because, I had a guidance counselor who knew what I was into and helped set me up with that college search. But I was really, everything in my orbit was centered around positioning myself to be successful in college and step into the coaching world. And I did that for a little while, but, I think in certain circumstances, there's also the reality that you're going to have to find another way to make things work. And it really just turned out that athletic administration was really ultimately going to be my calling. And so I think if nothing else, it's just a good reminder to keep an open eye, to always be looking around and to see how all different parts of an organization come together.
Absolutely. Definitely. Very, very important. And it looks like we got Ellen, actually. She just was able to join in. Can you hear us, Ellen?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm so glad you were able to join. So sorry for the technical difficulties there.
That's, 2020, am I right?
Right. We're all dealing with it. Cool. Well,
Thanks for having me.
Definitely. We just got started with my first question with the rest of the guys. If you wanted to, if you're able, do you want to give a little short bio to the attendees who are listening right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ellen Trudell, and I am the Corporate Communications Manager for the Detroit Lions. And kind of a simple way to explain that is that I tell the story of our team and organization off the field. So everything that kind of revolves around the organization and the team that isn't actual hard and fast statistics, game of football stuff. So what that means specifically is our story in the community, our fan engagement and our marketing. I do the PR for our stadium, Ford Field, and I tell the story of the team, of the cheerleaders, our corporate partnerships, pretty much anything you can think of outside of the game itself is my purview. And I started my career in sports as a Detroit Lions intern for the media relations department, which I think it's Dion. I think you also had that
Yes.
same internship.
Yeah.
And so when my supervisor as an intern was able to create the corporate communications department at the Detroit Lions, I was able to come back full time. And corporate communications is still kind of a new thing in the NFL. Not all 32 teams have that department. So yeah, that's kind of a brief overview.
Cool. Right on. Thank you for that. So glad to have you here. So I'm going to keep going on with the questions. And then this one is an individual question. This one's for Dion. So in your time so far in the communications world professionally, how have you seen public relations evolve in the sports industry?
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed over my 5 to 6 years is really just like the emergence of social media as it relates to professional athletes. They've really taken their own brand in social media and maximized it, whether and monetize it as well. And so, like, the biggest thing is when those things don't align with the organization. And so, whether a guy is trying to promote his brand and if that aligns with the team. So for us, we have a new coach this year, and we're all about team. And so, guys promoting, their individual businesses, no matter what it may be, that may not always be the best thing. So, like I said, just the growth of social media as it relates to professional athletes and how they've kind of taken that and really pushed their own brands is really like the biggest thing.
Definitely. Yep. We are starting to see a lot more of that for sure in these days. And then I'm going to go on to my next question. What is it like to be working for each of your respective organizations and your teams? Seth, if you want to go ahead and jump on that one first.
Yeah. So I'm with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and so all smiles over here. I'll touch on the atmosphere first. So I was lucky to come in at a unique time. I joined in the off season of 2018, going into the following season, and we were having a huge transformation of Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We were redoing the whole arena. So I came in to a brand new arena, brand new office space, brand new computers, desks, hubs to take calls and so on and whatnot. So the atmosphere is phenomenal. It's a really good culture. I moved here to Cleveland without knowing anyone for the most part. And not that it's far away from home, but, it's still a little bit scary. I didn't hesitate to move, but, it's, moving somewhere without knowing anyone is a little scary, but the culture is great. It's young. So I made a lot of friends through work. And it's also just incredible to work in a space where there is a lot of, well-experienced, almost veterans in the industry, as I like to say. It's all about at a young spot in your career, we're all stamping our resume, trying to imagine what it's going to look like in 10 years, to get to the top of the ladder, right? But it's really all about being in a space that you can create value for your future, right? So, I'm personally looking around and, the guy three desks down for me has worked for 5 NBA teams, or, the girl three desks the other way has worked for, LinkedIn, Pepsi, and, an NFL team, an NHL team. So that's really where I get the most value out of it is the space I'm in as a whole in the organization, aside from just the desk where I'm at myself. And I think that's, very important to know, especially for those that are graduating soon and looking to break into any industry. If you can get in and it might not be the exact job you want, but it's in a space where you can see yourself grow, you take that job and you connect with other departments, and then, you get to where you need to be. So it's all smiles in Cleveland.
Right on. Awesome. That is good to hear. Kurt, so it seems like a very collaborative thing going on in Cleveland with Seth. And with your position as the associate athletic director, is it the same? Are you working more by yourself, or is it kind of more of a team effort like it is with Seth?
Yeah, I think that answer is really going to be dependent on the organization, and I'd say that what Seth's experiencing in Cleveland is phenomenal. Even within the NBA, that might not necessarily be the case, and it's just different from place to place. And I think in terms of this question, I've really benefited from being in vastly different organizations. Being in Boston, East Coast hustle and bustle, and you've kind of got your blinders on, and you're at a place where you're at a high level, but you're really outgunned, outmanned, out-resourced at the Division I level, which I think is a phenomenal thing for a young professional, because you really have an opportunity to take charge of things, to move into other areas that are beyond your defined role, and have it be okay with everyone. So I love that in the early part of my career. Then I go to the left coast, where things are just, it's a lot different. It's a lot more laid back, and people are working hard, but they don't necessarily show it in the same way. And then here in Midwest, nice. So every organization is just so different. I'm fascinated by organizational behavior. I would tell anybody who's watching this session that if you have an opportunity to take a course in organizational behavior, that you should do it, because even tying it to a lot of the stuff about what Seth said was right on. As you're thinking about the early parts of your careers and where you're going and where you're going to intern, the work that you're going to be doing is so important, as is the culture, the organization, because you're gonna be seeing yourselves with your peers, with fellow interns, with people with other organizations, and you're going to end up going through your careers together. And so it really is thinking beyond the work and onto the connections that you're going to make. And so those situations might look a little different at a University of Michigan than it might at a smaller Division II school where I worked. And so you get a little more into specific answers with that question. But no doubt you got to find yourself at a place where collaboration's embraced.
Absolutely. Right on. All right, and then for my next question, I'm going to go to Dion and Ellen. So aside from COVID, what is the biggest challenge that you guys think you're facing in the industry at the moment? Dion.
I guess the biggest challenge, it's kind of hard to go besides COVID, because it definitely is a challenge, especially in the NFL. But I guess I say kind of like the biggest challenge is, these players, especially in my role, they're getting younger and younger as they come in. So the ways in which that I use to interact with them, to get them, whether it's to do media availability, whether it's to do something in-house or anything like that, my strategy has to change. When I first came in, I was closer to the same age as these guys. Now 6 years later, I'm married. I don't listen to the same music that I used to listen to. So I don't do the same things. And so, a lot of those things changes. So, always constantly growing and enhancing your skill set and moderating the tactics that you use to try to convince these guys to do things. That's really, kind of like the biggest thing as you get more experience in this industry for me.
Gotcha. Ellen?
Yeah, it's funny because I kind of along the same vein as what Dion is saying, but in an even broader sense, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges facing the sports industry right now is Gen Z and younger. I'm not sure how much of Gen Z are true sports fans in the way that even me as a millennial and every generation beforehand. I don't know that there's that really strong emotional connection in Gen Z. And this is a very broad statement. I'm not going to claim to be an expert by any means. But it's just something that I think is going to be a challenge going forward, because I think, to sound all businessy, I think consumer behavior is a lot different than it has been. And honestly, COVID is probably only exacerbating that. I think it existed before the pandemic. And I think that it's just going, we'll not know for maybe years down the line what the long-term results of this will be. And then on top of that, I think that we were already struggling to kind of capture maybe that lifelong interest of younger generations.
Definitely. Interesting. Very interesting perspective. All right. So I'm going to go to my next individual question. This one is for Kurt. Is there anything happening on the college athletics scene at the moment that differs a little bit from professional sports?
Yeah, I mean, boy, that's a great question. And I think that there are a lot of similarities with a Power 5 university and professional sports. So what I'm going to say doesn't necessarily mean that it's not happening with NFL teams or NBA teams. But I'm going to talk about kind of philanthropy and recruiting. A lot of these organizations, they have nonprofit arms or fundraising or, obviously with Ellen, community relations and corporate partnerships as well. For us, our reality right now, and maybe how we differ is that we're in a huge crunch for revenue. Everyone is. But for us, truly the only way to make that up in the next couple of years is going to be through philanthropic donations from alumni, people who are connected to us. And the difference is in terms of for us, it's ABR, always be recruiting. And we have that never really stops, yet our coaches right now are not able to be on the road through NCAA legislation. They're not allowed to see potential prospective student athletes. And so that makes it very hard to think about what our programs are going to look like, 1 or 2 years down the road. And on top of that, we're juggling rosters with student athletes who are being given extra years of eligibility, but both at U of M and other schools, they might not have the resources to allow those student athletes to remain on. And even if we do, how many 5th or 6th year student athletes are going to want to stick around on campus? And if they do prospective student athletes want to come in because they might have been thinking that, all right, hey, they might have a chance as a freshman or sophomore to play, but now these rosters are growing, the benches are getting deeper, and they might be looking for other opportunities at different places. So, my answer is a little bit more specific to what's happening in our world now, but I think that those issues are going to persist for the next couple of years. It's amazing just what one little blip on the radar does, one little ripple in the ocean. It just continues for a really long time after that.
Yep, it really does. So with those problems that you guys just mentioned, do you think that the next generation of professionals might have a secret, or what do you think that they can do to help fix any of those issues? And this is just a general one, so anybody can go ahead and jump in on this answer.
Sure. Well, I can jump in there right away. I mean, I think what Dion said earlier was very important. As the base of our audience stays the same in some respect, we keep getting older, right? But the benefit for the next generation of professionals is they're growing up with social media. And being so connected in a digital world and how they experience the world really is going to impact our future. And so for us, kind of overcoming some of our challenges right now, we're in a very humanistic world, and no matter what, it's going to come back to relationships, interpersonal communications. And so this next generation, if you're paying attention, what a phenomenal opportunity to take this network that you have, whether it's people who you're on campus with at Eastern Michigan or another campus, or this entire world that you're connected to digitally, to be able to leverage those relationships into solutions in the future. And again, that can look very different from place to place, but I do think it comes back to the global network that we have here today.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like Kurt mentioned, I've sat in many meetings explaining what captions mean or what trends, our social team should use when they want to post things and be hip or cool to try to appease to a different fan base. So just always being aware of what's going on, what's changing. I know for us, like our social department has monetized a lot of these, social media platforms. So the content that they post on Snapchat and Instagram, all of it is sponsored, right? And so coming up and helping them come up with shows, whether it's a Facebook or Twitter Q&A, or just quick little snippets with the players, with each other. Always being able to offer ideas and things like that. And, as they get younger, always, just being aware of what they're into. I'm on Twitter, TikTok. I mean, I don't TikTok, but I have to be on TikTok because our players use TikTok. So, just always being aware of what's out there and growing, as the players come in. So, yeah.
Awesome. Right on. Dr. Ellen, do you have anything to add on to that? Can move forward for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll shed a little light of my end. I think Kurt and Dion said it perfectly, but I also think it's just so important from an organizational standpoint to stay competitive digitally as well, and move with the times as well. Like I know over here in Cleveland, we within the last season brought in a whole new content creation team. And, we were starting to see, and I don't work in content creation, but a couple of my close friends do. So I know what they're up to. And, if you look at eyes around the league, majority of the teams are doing the same thing. And then there's a few teams like maybe the Phoenix Suns or the Brooklyn Nets who edit clips differently. And then that creates shock value, right? And more people are sharing it and more people are looking at it. And the industry is growing, and I think that's what we did over here. We brought in a whole new content creation team, and now we edit clips completely different. And our social team does mini series and behind the scenes. And last year when we brought in John Beeline, we did, well, not me, but my colleagues did a mini series called The Road Back, and it was behind the scenes. We're in a rebuilding phase over here in Cleveland, so it was behind the scenes and what it's looked like. We got a new coach, we got new young guys. And they ended up winning an Emmy, believe it or not. And I think it's, they try to stay competitive with what a few of the other teams who are getting shock value, which brings more people to your page. Then they're buying tickets, and it's all bringing in revenue at the end of the day. So I think, staying competitive and taking a little risk as well to create that shock value to raise awareness from an organizational standpoint is huge and can go a long way.
Definitely. Absolutely. All right, so my next question is directed at Ellen. So how has your time as a freelance writer, how has that helped you in your current role with the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm seeing some tips or questions coming up in the chat too about transitioning after graduation into a full-time role. And so, full transparency, when I finished my internship with the Lions, there wasn't a PR position open, but I knew I wanted to work in PR. And so there was a different position open at the Lions that I was asked to take. And I was like, no, I want to work in PR. I know I want to work in PR, which, like, looking back at 22-year-old me, that was pretty bold of me. But I knew what I wanted. And so when I was looking for work, because I turned out a job offer, I started freelancing. And honestly, and I'm not advocating that anyone do this. This is just my story and what worked for me. But the freelance work that I did, I was writing all kinds of things. And if you are interested in PR specifically, I can never say enough how important the skill of writing is. It might be the most important skill. And adaptability, in my opinion, is maybe number two. If you're those two things, I think that you're set up for success in this industry, just as, again, my personal opinion. But I was writing professional bios for professional rugby players, and I was writing speeches for an NFL player to give at his alma mater when he was donating to build a new football field. I was writing all kinds of things. And then now in my current role with the Lions, I write articles for our website. I write scripts for our TV program. I've actually been nominated for an Emmy twice for some of the writing that I've done. I also manage our Ford Field venue social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and that's a writing skill as well. Social media copy, so there's copywriting, there's script writing, there's talking points, there's just straight up press releases and media advisory, the traditional sort of PR things, speech writing. You really never know what you're going to be asked to do, and the more experience you have writing in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different voices, especially because you might work for a lot of different organizations, and the style and the voice of that organization can shift. Or hey, even an executive that maybe you're writing a quote for, maybe the executive in this department speaks a whole lot differently than the executive in the other department. You kind of have to get to know them and get to understand their voice to write on their behalf as well. So as much writing experience as you can get, it's only going to serve you well in the future.
Yes, absolutely. In PR, yep. Writing is definitely the go-to skill, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later too. Some skills that we think we should have going into the industry. So this next question is for Seth directly. Was there anything about your industry that was intimidating when you first came into it? And then did you do anything to dispel that intimidation or any of those fears?
Great question. Definitely. I think what was the most intimidating for me, knowing that let me backtrack a little bit. So once I graduated, I either wanted to work for a sports agency or work for a team. That was it. Small goggled, 21, 22-year-old out of college, wasn't taking any other answers besides those two things. And everyone always told me, well, if you want to go work for a team, you're going to have to go work in sales. And they're not wrong. Whatever you want to do, no matter if it's sports, whatever business, the easiest way to get your foot in the door is in sales. And I don't think anyone would argue that for sure. And that's a great place to be. But in sports, it's hard to get in outside of sales within specific organizations for sure. And I was definitely getting a lot of not negative comments, but you're going to have to go sell tickets. You're going to have to go sell tickets, which I have a lot of friends who do, and it's awesome. And I don't mean anything negative about it, but that's not what I wanted to do. And everyone would always tell me, well, you're going to have to go in sales. So that was kind of always, creeping up on me. But then transitioning, once I got in, I was a special projects assistant to our chief marketing officer over here at the Cavaliers. And again, came in a unique time during our 50th season and our transformation of the arena. So when I first came in, it was not exactly full time in the books. So it was, you'll be here for a season, and then we'll see. Hopefully, we'll transition to something else, because I was really brought on for the 50th season. So that whole time where I'm just working my tail off, I'm suited and booted, working all these game days. It's still in the back of my mind saying you might not have a job in 9 months once the season's over. It's not guaranteed. There was never a shot clock on my contract saying you're out here on this date. But it was kind of like signing someone to like a one year team option. Okay, like you're here for a year and then you have a team option after that. And that was kind of always, and maybe that's what looking back, maybe that's what got my motor going, made me work hard. But it was nerve wracking, and maybe that's just me just knowing I might not have a job in 8 months, 9 months. But the reason why I share that is have patience and take pride in the process while doing so. And I think that's really important in sports. When you get in, it's hard to see yourself, at that top of the ladder, but just be patient, and, opportunity, won't pass you. So, yeah.
Got it.
I hope that answered the question.
No, yeah, absolutely. That was great. Thank you for that. So we've got about 6 minutes until we go to the student questions. So I'm going to go ahead and make this my last question. But this is one that I really want to touch on, and I'm going to give everybody a chance to pitch in a little bit. Dion, I'm going to start with you on it. If you could choose 2 well-developed skills to have when coming into your industry, what would they be and why?
Yeah, Ellen kind of touched on it. Writing, especially from a PR perspective, when I got hired full-time, my responsibilities, they just told me, you're responsible for our media guide and the weekly release, which is, our media guide is over 600 pages. Our weekly release is 200 pages a week. Obviously, we don't change the 200 pages each week, but there's a great deal of writing. There's many nights that I'm up until 1 and 2 in the morning trying to finish a release to send out Tuesday, by noon. So writing, and then if you want to work in a PR department for an NFL team, I would say design skills. So that's InDesign, Photoshop. If you're good with the Adobe suite and writing, especially working for a professional team, you'll go far.
Awesome. Right on. Ellen, did you want to touch on this one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I touched on it already. I can't say enough how important writing is. But I will say that the other skill, and I mentioned it when I was in my first answer earlier, adaptability is a word I use a lot. It's actually a word that I use when I'm interviewing for my intern candidates each season, because in my opinion, PR in general, the whole idea of PR. I mean, sometimes I was on the football side. Sometimes it's pretty cut and dry, you know, the off days or Tuesdays and whatnot, and coach is at this time and locker room is always this time. But even with that, even in the cases where it maybe follows a strict schedule, the whole idea of PR is being ready for anything. And you never know what's going to happen, and you don't know when news is going to break, and you don't know how you're going to be involved in the narrative, if you're controlling the narrative, if you're reacting to a narrative. And a lot of the times you kind of have to act on the fly too. You know, say that you're in a situation and a reporter is maybe crossing a line that isn't good to cross. You kind of have to be able to step in and think on your toes and be like, okay, this is the right thing to do. How do I manage this asset, either being a player, an executive, or how do I keep this relationship with a reporter? You really have to be able to be flexible, and you have to be able to be professional at the same time. And I think that those skills are not easy to come by because you're not necessarily in those situations all the time. So having the confidence to be able to react quickly and react well and use good judgment in those situations is going to be, I mean, that is going to take you very far.
Absolutely. Definitely. Kurt, did you want to add in on this one as well?
Yeah, I mean, I love both of those answers. And I think that what I would contribute different from them is more on the soft skills part of it. I mean, understanding human behavior, understanding people. You know, this is a world, like I said, it's humanistic. And you're usually in a situation where you might be interacting with somebody and you very instantly have to understand their personality, their mood, what interests them in mid conversation is critical. And then the other one that will probably always be an answer, Ellen talked about adaptability and flexibility, and in that way, always be willing to think about emerging technology and what's happening in the future. If you're going to be in it, you got to understand what TikTok is going on, right? You know, even though you might not be a personal user of it, you have to be a personal user of it. And that was something that luckily I saw very early on. I saw kind of, you know, I came in when it was maybe more of a traditional field, and I saw, you know, really highly regarded professionals, long established, who were struggling with technology. And I made that promise to myself. I said, hey, I'm going to be the old dude in this field, but I'm not going to let myself be a young dinosaur. And you know, as 20 years of doing this, that would be just a critical answer that I would say. As soon as you're in a position where you're thinking about you're going to stop growing, you're probably going to have to get into a different field.
Yep, absolutely. Seth, anything for you to add as well? I know you might have stolen your answers.
You know what? I don't even want to say anything because Dion, Kurt, and Alan just said it perfectly. I may follow up with them for a recap of that after this. That was very, very well said.
Agreed. Absolutely. That's okay though, because we are actually right at the point where we want to transition into some of our student questions. So pulling up the Q&A, I'm going to shout some out for you guys. This one is from, we had a couple of the same question, Juliana and Sequoia. This one is for Ellen. What has your experience as a woman in the sports industry been like?
You know, that's a great question. And I first have to say that working for the Detroit Lions, first of all, I started with the team with a woman owner, and we transitioned into another woman owner, which is kind of an unprecedented situation in the world of sports, for sure. And not only that, our senior vice president of business development is a woman. Our CFO is a woman. We have a ton of women in leadership roles at the Lions. And it's something that made me feel comfortable. I think that representation is something that gets talked about a lot. And diversity of perspective and background and ethnicity and gender and everything else is so important at organizations, because that's how you're able to come to the best possible conclusion, because the people that you're representing, your constituents, if you will, are people from all walks of life. And if you have an organization that only looks one way, I mean, you're not really serving anybody well, because it's not representative of what your fan base is and what your consumers are. So I'm lucky to work for an organization that is full of women in positions, making decisions and having those seats at the table. You know, I think that it's hard because when I started as an intern, there definitely were less women in the industry. I wasn't even allowed in the locker room my internship year. So I wasn't able to do any intern responsibilities for media availability in the locker room, just because that's the way that it was and the way that it always had been. But a few years after that, that changed. And we have, again, a lot of women on staff. We have our team reporter and our managing editor of the website. They're all women. And in non-COVID times, they're just like anybody else going into the locker room the way that has always been the case, as long as the industry has been around. So even as somebody that, I mean, I like to think that I'm young, even as somebody as young as I have, I've seen it grown in a short period of time. And so I can't, think enough of the women that came before me and the trailblazers that kind of led that path. And we're kind of on a new frontier. I mean, there's a woman GM in baseball now. I mean, it's astonishing. Obviously, history was made in college football over the weekend. So it's more exciting than ever for representation, I think, in sports.
Definitely. I love that. So for this next question, this one's for anybody who wants to touch on it. This is from Nishana. I'm in grad school, potentially looking to switch careers from higher education to something communications related in athletics. Does anybody have any advice or suggestions for her?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to touch on it. I would say, transitioning, put yourself out there on LinkedIn, network. I know that sounds very vague, but if you're looking to transition, I would say, shoot, reach out to people. If you don't get a response back, you got nothing to lose. And then if you do get a response, do what you just did here, ask how you can grow, and then that could lead to something. But more importantly, just get your feet wet in the industry wherever you can. If you want to work for this exact league or this exact team, great, that's your point. But if you can start off, something a little smaller scale, get your feet wet, stamp your resume, and help shape your future career path, I think that's great. So wherever you can get your feet wet, I would say if you're looking to make a change, don't hesitate, take that chance.
Right on. Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. We've got another question. This one is for Dion. So what do you think about TikTok, and how has it kind of taken on its own form in sports?
No, so I it's not that I think TikTok is great. I think once I got to a certain point, I was like, Instagram will be the last, social media platform that I'll be active on, from a personal perspective. And so I think seeing TikTok grow, initially, it was just like one of those things where I wasn't invested personally in it. So, I didn't feel the need to go on there. But, as we see, like the NFL and TikTok, have a partnership. Like I said, our social team has used TikTok to monetize a lot of different things. They do a weekly shoe cam, quick little vid that is sponsored by a local shoe store out here. So I think TikTok is great.
Right on. Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us would agree. This next question is for anybody. This one is from Christian. Are there any tips or strategies you'd recommend graduating students take advantage of while seeking opportunities within the field at such a complex time? So this time specifically.
Yeah, this one's hard because we're all navigating this for the first time together, right? And what a remarkable time in this world. And if you are a senior and you're graduating, I don't know that I have any true knowledge to give you other than some sympathy. But Well, we're all working in a virtual world right now, and so even the idea of getting experience today is very different than my answer would be a while ago. Yet there are still opportunities. I know even at Eastern, there's still work to be done. Greg Steiner is still there. He's still the man in the athletic department. If anybody is looking for actual experience, there are things that can be done, and that's back to some of the writing stuff and the social stuff is helping with content. Either it's writing or content calendars or bio or written work, stories. I mean, the stories that exist today are through the roof at any school. How are we supporting these student athletes? How are they preparing for the uncertainty of a season? Nutrition from home, mental wellness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can pitch people with offers to help. And I don't know many places that would turn down those offers and those opportunities. So I think that would be a great place is, kind of be where your feet are at and see what experience you can get right here and right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. Like Kurt mentioned, I remember I reached out to Greg personally and just said, hey, do you guys have any internships available? And he said, no, all of our GA positions are filled, but if you're willing to just come in for 15 to 20 hours to help, we could use the help. And so when I accepted that and came in, when I went to apply for the Detroit Lions internship, that was all the experience that I had. So that opportunity of just coming in 15 to 20 hours a week, that was all I really had to, put on my resume as relevant experience. And so, I was fortunate enough to get the interview and got the internship. But yeah, that's true. Especially a school like Eastern, I'm sure no one's going to turn down whether it's writing bios or because that's what I came in and I did for 3 days a week. I would come in and help write bios.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. No, it never helps or it never hurts to ask. Definitely. So this next question is from Elizabeth, and this one is for everybody. So anybody that wants to answer, go for it. Do you think the path you each took to where you got now was the best for you to get there, or do any of you wish you would have done anything differently along the way?
I'm happy to start off on that. Great question and a tough question. I think if we're all being fair in anything talking about our careers, we have to recognize and understand that it's this combination, like the intersection of hard work, preparedness, timing, luck, circumstances. I would have, growing up, with where I came from and my situation, I would have never said that I would have worked at Harvard, Stanford, and the University of Michigan, or that I would have even had those kinds of travels. So, if I had to do all over again, maybe I would have gone to grad school right after and tried to get a GA position and a little bit more experience. But again, that's kind of nitpicky. I ended up putting myself through college, and by the time those 4 years were done, I was done with school, and I just wanted a different kind of experience. And I think, experiences in life are really important as well. I always say, don't mistake going to school with getting an education, and I firmly believe that. And I think that communications or even administration. Somebody had said it earlier. It might have been Seth. Earlier, if you look at any organization, the reality is the amount of opportunities within an organization span all kinds of concentrations, backgrounds, career choices. If you want to be an accountant, you can do it, within a department. So I don't focus as much on background for people when we have jobs, but I'm looking to build a team. I'm looking for different experiences that will make us better. And so really a long answer here, but kind of tying it back is what I said, like be present where you are, no matter what you're doing, be amazing at it and be a good person and be a good teammate. And then always ask for more opportunity. And if you're at the right place, you'll get those opportunities, and then something's going to break one way or another. and just don't be afraid to go down that path and to face down the unknown.
Yeah, for sure. I think Seth mentioned earlier about moving to Cleveland, without any family or friends, right? So that's another part of it. Working in sports, not being, understanding that you may have to move and being willing to do that. I moved to New Jersey. I took an internship out here, and I had never been to New York. I just said, "Yep, I'll take it." I had no family, no friends. Me and my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. We packed up her car and we out here. So just being willing to, take an opportunity and make the most of it. Once that opportunity is given to you, trusting in yourself, believing in yourself, and really giving it your all.
Definitely. Love that. All right, so we have time for one more question. This one is from Joey, and this one is for Dion. What was the biggest barrier to hurdle making the jump from the smaller market of Detroit all the way to the market of New York?
I think the biggest thing, Kurt mentioned this earlier, going from the Midwest where, everyone is nice and it's, hey, how's it going? And then coming to the East Coast and everything is times 1,000, right? So everything is done fast. The work is due faster. There's no off period. So really just, transitioning and understanding the market in which you are now. So that was the biggest adjustment for me, really kind of adapting the way that I worked to the style of where I was. When I was an intern for the Lions, I was in grad school at the time. I didn't finish because I was offered a full-time job. So I took the opportunity to come out to the Giants, but I was in grad school and I was an intern for the Lions, and to me it was easy. I came to the Giants, my internship. I was working 60 hours a week. There was no chance that I can be in grad school. I was working 60 hours a week. It was like the difference, and working for an NFL organization is not that different because I know Eamon and Solomon, they put in a lot of hard work. But it was just the demand and the expectation as far as timing. That was the biggest adjustment for me.
Gotcha. Very good to know. All right. So with that last question, I'm going to go ahead and close this out for the evening. But thank you guys so much for attending the event. You guys all did an awesome job and shared some very insightful answers. We appreciate you guys so much coming out.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thrilled to be here.
Not a problem. So for those of you in attendance tonight, if you're an honor student seeking to fulfill your intellectual or cultural experience, make sure you attend at least 2 other panels throughout the week, and email us at easternprssa@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that you get those credits. And then make sure you join us tomorrow as well for the entrepreneurs panel. That's at 4 o'clock, same time as today. We'll have the link on our socials for you guys to join. We're going to have speakers from the B Agency, got someone from Cybercrime Support Network, Brave Design, and we have Adam Ritchie, Brand Direction as well. So it's going to be another star lineup, and we look forward to having you guys again. And that is it. Thank you guys all so much again, from the panelists to the attendees. Really appreciate it, you guys.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care, you guys.
Have a good night.